Hi, my name is Clive Waring-Flood and I'm the editor of Silvershotz magazine. Welcome to our very first video in-depth interview of a photographer, and we have selected for our first interview Michael Cook, who is becoming very quickly one of Australia's leading indigenous art photographers. And we are here at the Andrew Baker Gallery in Brisbane, Australia to talk to Michael. What exactly was it that actually made you think you'd leave the world of commercial photography and move into art photography?
I had a little bit of a kickstart in 2008 where I won an Indigenous award, and it sort of persuaded me to go in and create a couple of projects I'd been thinking about for quite some time. Main reason being that what the art industry does is give me full control over what I want to do from beginning to end. A lot of the other industries that I've worked in I've never had complete control over what I wanted to produce, with working with either clients or having to answer to clients or agencies or so on. So working in the art industry has given me that control to be able to create the projects that I want to do, which was the main reason I went into it. I started on a project in 2009 after winning the award, and brought it into the gallery in Brisbane here, and Andrew really liked it and decided to show it in 2010.
Now, historically, art has always been sort of seen as an area where you require a huge amount of financial support because there's never been the same sort of income generated from art. Have you been able to find or have that support from family or relatives or other people to enable you to become more involved in your artwork?
We don't have kids, so I suppose that frees up my lifestyle a little bit to be a little bit more sort of insecure with income and so on. And it did take quite some time to establish myself creating the projects that I do, and nothing's ever reliant on income when we're talking in the art industry, so everything's starting to work out and smooth out now, but for quite some time I had to fund my own projects and until I sort of started to get established and started to get a few shows under my belt.
It sounds to me as though that while you were doing your wedding and fashion photography, that somewhere there you had the seed of an idea for this particular series, is that right?
I suppose what the weddings led me into was I wanted to get some published work, and it led me into doing a couple of personal projects for myself, which included a lot of styling and makeup and hair and using professional models and so on. So it taught me a process to go through to be able to create a project that I had full control over. These two projects that I worked on got published in overseas magazines, but that was sort of a key element to basically teaching myself how I wanted to put the art projects together.
Okay, great. What we're going to do now, if we can, is to have a look at some of your images. That's right. And I must admit I find this very amusing because of the fact that you're highlighting the fact that undiscovered is very much a European thing because of course the Aborigines were already here.
Exactly.
So it wasn't exactly undiscovered, and what I find fascinating about this series is that you seem to have almost changed the course of history by saying, what if? And maybe it's a play upon your name, because one of the images you have Captain Cook actually landing with the tall ship in the background. Yeah. There's quite a lot of symbolism in all of your images. Where did you come up with the ideas for these things?
With this project, I actually come up with the title name first, Undiscovered. It was about European settlement and the fact that they come to a country that was already occupied. So in a light-hearted way, I reversed the name to Undiscovered rather than the discovery of Australia, and decided to dress an Indigenous person in the typical sort of red coat outfits and so on that the first Europeans wore when they arrived in Australia. As far as the props and everything go that I've used in the images, it's a series of 10 images that tell a story. And I actually shot it in my old hometown of Hervey Bay and went to where I used to live and raided the shed and used, there's a bicycle in one shot and a ladder in another shot, as you see here. So they're all the old props from our shed that I took out and took down to the beach. I did photograph this out on the mudflats in a scene and didn't end up liking it, so I have replaced some of the backgrounds and so on some of the images to piece it all together.
The mission is a very powerful narrative. How much of your own personal family history can you relate to these themes, and also how much of your own personal family history have you actually incorporated into the making of these images?
The mission is a story about a young girl that's taken off her homeland and put through the mission process. It basically starts in the late 1800s and runs right through the 1900s, the actual storyline. It's also a set of about 10 images again, so it tells a story of this girl taking off her homeland right through the mission period, getting married, having a baby, and the last shot is her going back, leaving the mission and going back to her homeland. I've used also myself in a couple of photos, which is a baby image here. This represents the stolen generation, and I'm not part of the stolen generation, but I am adopted, a part Aboriginal baby adopted into a white family. So even though it doesn't connect exactly to the mission story, there is a connection there to some of our own sort of family photographs in history.
Michael, one of the things that is intriguing, or going to intrigue our readers, is where on earth did you get the idea from to actually obtain images from the 27 Australian Prime Ministers since Federation in 1901 and superimpose images of Aborigines over the top of them? Where did you get this idea from?
My mother, like when I was being brought up as a child, my mother used to fight for indigenous rights. So I've listened to her stories over the years, and a lot of the basis from my ideas come from what she has been teaching me, I suppose, or some of the issues I've seen her deal with over the years.
Obviously, the one on the left here is our current Prime Minister, Julia Gillard.
Yes.
This one that you're holding in your hand there at the moment is...
that's Paul Keating. So what I've done is I've put the name and the year that they were in power on the bottom.
This one actually isn't instantly recognisable as Paul Keating in terms of the features.
No, exactly.
But the next one you've got here, Mr. John Howard, is certainly recognisable to a certain extent. And I suppose out of the ones you've shown us so far, the one of Bob Hawke, who's one of the certainly Australia's most flamboyant prime ministers, it's quite unsettling actually to look at these images.
He was the first one I did, and the effort there was very minimal effort to actually get this overlay to sit over the photograph. And I thought, oh, well, originally I was only going to do about 6 or 8 images. And I thought, oh, this is quite easy. So I then attempted to go ahead and do the full 27 Prime Ministers. But someone like Paul Keating whose features are quite heavily European.
He's very angular, isn't he?
He has a very long chin and long nose and so on. So I found it really difficult to retouch some of these. As I said before, Bob Hawke took about 4 minutes. Paul Keating actually took around about 8 attempts over about a 6-week period. Some of the images too, I've actually used women as overlays, and on some of the men. I've got a sample back here of one. That has a meaning in itself. I wanted to bring another level into it, which is also see from a woman's perspective as well. So this one here is Alfred Deakin, and I've actually used a woman to overlay the eyes and nose area of that person.
What I'm absolutely intrigued about, Michael, is the way it's almost like a metamorphosis or this transition between non-indigenous and indigenous. Could you explain to me actually the process that you've used to create this effect?
Yes. So basically what we did is overlay indigenous faces across the top of the original Prime Minister photos from the National Library. And we just kind of moved, and firstly we saw how easy they would sit down onto the original faces. As I said before, some were very easy and some weren't, depending on sort of how European the features were of the original Prime Minister. And then as you can see here, if I lay a print across there, you can actually see the two different faces. Not saying that they all work like that way, but some...
Because they almost look as though the camera's been blurred as you were taking the photograph of them. I mean, was that an intention for the transition?
Yeah, to get them all to fit in, we've actually sort of double exposed a lot of them so that you see like different faces on some of the images. Like that eye and nose is one face, and then if I pull back up to there like that, you can see the Prime Minister there quite easily. And then down like that, you can see the indigenous face coming into it. That one there works the other way, it works crossways. So that's the indigenous face, the eyes and the nose and the lips. Okay. And then across that way there, you can see the Prime Minister.
Now, I suppose something that everyone is going to be extremely curious about is that these would be not necessarily contentious, but potentially very inflammatory images in terms of what you've done. Most people would consider them politicians, even though we don't love our politicians, but in most countries we have a certain respect for them. Have you had any hate mail or negative comments about what you've done to all the Australian Prime Ministers? Actually,
these have been out since 2010, and I haven't received anything negative, like no negative feedback at all on them. It's all been positive.
Well, we're very, very impressed with all of the work that you've been doing, and I suppose what's on everyone's lips really is what are you working on next?
I'm working on a series called Civilized. It's to do with the 4 countries that come to Australia through the early 1600s right through to the late 1700s, which was the Dutch, French, Spanish and English, and how they saw the Aboriginal people.
Great, well we look forward to seeing that body of work. Michael, thank you very much indeed, and best of luck with your future career.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.